Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Spirit here. And I want to thank you so much for coming back and visiting my channel. If you're new here, thanks so much and I hope you stay. If you're already subscribed, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about some spiritual principles, but before I start, I wanted to give you a little bit about my personal background. I grew up in a very traditional, Orthodox Christian background. And over the course of my life, I would say I was a part of about 5 different churches. So, and these churches were very pivotal in my spiritual growth, in my relationship with God, and it just laid the foundation for the rest of my life. So, over the course of time, some of my thoughts started to change. And the way I looked at the Bible morphed and changed. And have you ever been in a situation where you thought for sure, you knew for a fact that something was right? This is the right information. And then later on down the line, you find out actually is not what I thought it was. Well, that's very normal. And that happens to all of us in different ways. And as a matter of fact, we are not going to feel the same way we felt 20 years ago about certain things. It's normal for us to progress and for us to grow and for us to think differently. We're just not going to feel the same way about things that we did 20 years ago. So the black and white thinking that I had years ago was one-dimensional, it was inflexible, and y'all, it even lacked some elements of humanity, honestly. And I truly believe that black and white thinking can distort and adulterate the true spirit of biblical text. So now I understand not to look at the Bible in a very black and white way, but to look at it through a kaleidoscope of many, many colors. And I believe that each person can extract the meaning for themselves. There's not just one particular meaning necessarily. So I believe that it's up to the God in you, the Creator in you, to extract what the meaning is for your life, as long as the result ends in love and the greater good. So the purpose of today's video is to look at lying, stealing, and killing in the Bible through the lens of the kaleidoscope and not in black and white. So I really hope that you stay for this video, and let's go ahead and get started. Trigger warning. Trigger warning. There may be some things that maybe you haven't thought about, or maybe you haven't heard about, or some things that may make you feel uncomfortable, and that is certainly not my intention. I certainly hope to just bring information and give a different perspective to those who are seeking. So that is my purpose for today. And I really hope that you just stay until the end of the video and then make your judgment. And remember that this is just my opinion, okay? I'm just somebody. You don't have to listen to me, but this is just my opinion. And I just want to give a different perspective, like I said, for those who are seeking answers. So I want you to sit back, relax, enjoy, get your coffee, get your tea, get your glass of wine, and let's go ahead and dive in. So before I begin, I am not in any way saying that lying, stealing, and killing is a good thing or is pleasing to God. And as a matter of fact, at face value, these things are wrong, and those who practice these are of low moral character and of low vibrational energy. So let's start with lying first. Lying is misrepresenting the truth. It's speaking falsely. It's uttering the untruth knowingly. And in Proverbs in the Bible, chapter 12:22 says, "The Lord detests lying lips, but delights in the trustworthy." Now, in the Bible, in Joshua chapter 2, Rahab the prostitute lied to protect the spies. And in return, her life and the lives of her family were spared from death. And the Bible commended her for this act. So did Rahab lie? Yes, she absolutely lied. But why did she lie? She lied to save lives. So there was a greater good to justify the lie. Saving a life is a good thing to do. Now, I think my favorite Bible passage on this issue is in Matthew 12:9-13. And I'm going to go ahead and read it. And it says, it's about the man with the withered hand. He left that place and entered their synagogue, a man there with a withered hand, and they asked him, and they're talking to Jesus, is it lawful to cure on the Sabbath? So they might accuse him. He said to them, suppose one of you only had one sheep, and it falls into the pit on a Sabbath. Will you not lay hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a human being than a sheep? So it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. Then he said to the man, stretch out your hand, and he restored the man's hand. So basically, what is Jesus saying here? Jesus is saying, okay, y'all, you're so busy trying to keep a law that you're neglecting love and doing good and kindness. You're not even considering the circumstances in the situation. So what's the point of a law if you're ignoring love and doing good? Or if you're not participating in the greater good, what's the point of a law? So another example of a lie being a good thing is an episode in one of my favorite childhood shows called Little House on the Prairie. And this episode is with Pa, or Charles Ingalls, and a little boy. So Charles Ingalls comes to town and he finds a starving, he's hungry, he's homeless, and he's orphaned. He finds this little boy with a stolen lamp. So he ends up going into the store of the lamp owner. And the lamp owner asks Charles and says, hey, have you seen a boy with the lamp? And guess what Charles did? He said, no, I haven't seen it. Did Charles lie? Absolutely. He lied. So later on in the story, Charles Ingalls retrieves the lamp, takes it back to the man, and gives the man the money for the lamp. So Charles, did he do a good thing? Did he do good? Was he protecting a hungry, innocent child? A child who was orphaned, who didn't have parents or family? Yes, he was. He knew the consequences of turning this little boy in. He knew what the consequences were. And eventually, Charles Ingalls ended up adopting this boy as his son. So, Charles Ingalls lied, yes. But why did he lie? He lied to protect an innocent child. So, did he do good? I would say that he did good and that he was practicing the principle in Matthew chapter 12. Now, the next principle is stealing. 2015 says, thou shalt not steal. And stealing is taking another's property without permission and with intent not to return it. So in the Bible, in Joshua chapter 6 and 7, or chapter 6 and 7, when the Israelites conquered Jericho, God gave specific instructions and said, no one is to take any valuables that they find. And if they do, there will be consequences. However, Achan secretly stole some things and hid them. So when Israel's army attacked the next town, they were surprisingly defeated. And Joshua asked God, he said, God, what happened? Why were we defeated? And God said that Israel had disobeyed him by stealing. And so God punished Israel for stealing. Now, we see in that example that God does not like stealing. But let's look at stealing through the lens of a kaleidoscope. Now, this is a true story, and this takes place in one of the middle schools where I worked at. And there was a boy who was brilliant. He was brilliant. He was around, 13, 14. He played an instrument, and he had a mother and a sister. His mother stayed home with his profoundly disabled sister. She didn't want to work because she didn't want to institutionalize her child, who she felt was really, really vulnerable, and the child was. These people were poor. When I tell you they were poor and had little of nothing. There was no father in the picture, and of course it was just him, his sister, his profoundly disabled sister, and his mother. So the cafeteria had a rule, and the rule in the cafeteria is you cannot take food out. You cannot, you have to buy the food, and you cannot take it out. You got to eat it or you have to leave it. So every day, right when the lunch bell rang, the boy came in and put a little food in his mouth and came and stood next to the custodian at the trash can. So imagine a young boy in middle school. He is taking the trash from his peers and dumping the trays, okay, with the custodian. But guess what? He had another purpose. He was putting food aside. He and the custodian were putting food aside. There were wrappers of pizza, sweets, hot dogs, juice, milk, you name it. There was so much food wasted on a daily basis in these schools. I can't even tell you. I mean, it's ridiculous, but I digress. I just wanted to let you know what was going on. But this boy would put away food for himself, and the custodian would do the same. And you know what he'd do? He would stuff his backpack with the food, and he would take that food home to his family every day. Guess what? Did he break a rule? Absolutely. Did he steal and take food that he was not supposed to take? Yes, technically he did. And you know what? We all turned a blind eye to it because we saw the greater good in the situation. We didn't turn the boy in. We didn't tell him, no, you can't do this. This is the rule, and you must follow the rule. We knew that there was a greater good and that love had to prevail over a law. And no one said anything about it. And this boy was able to help provide for his family from the food that he took from the cafeteria. And that is an example of Matthew chapter 12. In love and the greater good, usurping a law or a rule. Now, another example of a sin that God, or all sin God's not pleased with, but another example of sin is killing or murder, which is taking a life, the act of causing death. Now, I had to look up the definition of killing versus murder. I really didn't know the exact definition. So killing can be unintentional, and killing can refer to animals. However, murder is premeditated and is only dealing with humans. So that's the difference between killing and murder. So just for today's purposes, we're going to use the words interchangeably. So there are plenty of Bible verses about killing and how killing is wrong, along with stealing and lying. There are plenty of Bible verses, and you can look those up. But of course, I'm going to probably use the most popular one, Exodus 20:13. Thou shalt not commit murder. And in the Bible, in 2 Samuel chapter 11, is the story of David and Bathsheba. King David stepped out on his patio or his deck and saw this beautiful woman. And he told his assistant, he said, I need you to go get her. And so guess what? He went to get Bathsheba, and they got together, and he laid with her, and she got preggers. And somebody might say, well, okay, well, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is that Bathsheba was married and that her husband worked in David's army. So David had to do something to get rid of this. We got to get rid of this problem. We got to shut this down right now. So he told his army generals to put Uriah on the front line and then have the army pull back so that Uriah would end up getting killed by the other party. And that's exactly what happened. Uriah was killed. But you know what? God saw David's sin. And God was not pleased with murder, with the killing. And so he told David that there would be consequences, one of which God told him that his child that Bathsheba was carrying would not make it, would die. And of course, there were other consequences as well. But that just showed, that's an example of how in the Bible, God was not pleased with killing. So I have some scenarios for you, for us to look through killing or murder through the lens of the kaleidoscope. Let's take a look at it. So the United States has an impending war, and the orcs are coming from far and wide. And just in case you don't know what an orc is a character from one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. If you know what that movie is, put it in the link below or put it in the comments below if you know what that movie is. An orc is kind of like a hybrid monster and man. That would be how I would describe it. So the orcs are coming from far and wide to occupy the United States of America. So tell me what you think's going to happen when the United States gets that information. What do you think's going to happen? Yes. What do you think the president is going to do? Of course, issue war on the orcs. And guess what? The military is going to be sent out, and they're going to try to extinguish the issue. So the Bible just got finished saying that killing and murder is wrong. But we have a situation where we're protecting innocent people. We're protecting people. We're protecting families. We're protecting the citizens of this country. So is protecting someone from harm and death a loving thing? Yes. Is it loving and for the greater good for the military to protect the citizens of the United States? The answer would be yes. Now, I have another scenario for you. It's been a long day and the kids are tucked in and mom and dad are exhausted and they decide to turn in early and they go to sleep. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's a thud in the house. Dad and mom pop up. Dad gets his gun from under the bed and he tiptoes out. And what he sees are 2 armed people in his front room. What does he do? What do you do? Your children are upstairs, your wife is in the room, and you are standing there with 2 armed gunmen. What do you do? Some people might say, well, you'd ask them, what are they doing here? Some people might do that. But other people may take the action and extinguish the problem. Because again, the scenario, I use 2 people on purpose, y'all. Even if it's 1, but I use 2 to kind of put a little twist on it. All right. So there's some different things that somebody can do, but a lot of people would choose to go ahead and stamp out the situation to protect their family and to protect themselves. Is that done out of love and the greater good? Yes. Is that protecting your loved ones from harm? Absolutely. So these are just a couple of different scenarios using the lens of the kaleidoscope as we view things. So to recap, I've shared with you today the principle of love and the greater good as we consider stealing, lying, and killing. We must consider the circumstances surrounding each situation before we determine our final thoughts and our opinions. And we can use the same principle as we read the Bible in different situations. And as we go through our own lives, we can use the same principle of love and the greater good. And as we read the Bible, we can discover the beautiful kaleidoscope of colors that the Bible offers us. And I truly believe that when we give the Bible this type of freedom, that we honor the spirit of the text, and that we grow more in love and not law. I really hope that you got something from this talk today. It really means a lot for me, for you to be here. And I really hope that you made it to the end of the video and that hopefully you weren't too triggered. Those of you who may be more on the sensitive side, or maybe you haven't heard some things explained in this way, and certainly believe everything that has been said is coming from my heart and out of love. And I just hope to maybe help you along your journey, your spiritual journey and your spiritual walk with God. I love you so much. And go ahead and put your comments in the box below. I would love to read your comments and to respond, and maybe for some of you to have some conversation as well. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless always, and always God bless. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.